Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Jasmine's First Impression Sports Talk. We're going to be talking all things week 2 of NFL football, so let's get started.
Welcome to Jasmine Pollock's First Impression Sports Talk, the fastest growing sports talk show in the country. And now, here's your host, Jasmine Pollock.
Welcome back to Jasmine's First Impression Sports Talk. And the first topic of the night we're going to talk about is what is going on in the NFC North. So let's bring in my dad, let's bring in Jeremiah, and let's talk about this AFC North. So this past weekend, the Bengals, Ravens, Steelers, and Browns all lost this week. So Bengals lose to the Cowboys. I'm not happy about that because obviously I want the Cowboys to lose every game. Ravens lose to the Dolphins after being up large in the first half. 21 points specifically heading into the fourth quarter. Steelers lose to the Patriots, and Browns lose to the Jets. So, Dad, I want to start with you. Which team had the worst loss yesterday out of the AFC North?
Well, I'm gonna. It's between the Bengals and the Ravens, and the reason why I said that the Bengals coming off a Super Bowl appearance last year, and to put up the two performances they put up in the first two games, that's a very big concern. They seem a little bit out of sync right now, like sloppy. The team's not really in sync. So I don't know what the answers are. They still have issues on the offensive line. Defensively, I don't know what they got going on defensively. But as far as the Ravens go, for them to come out and put up that kind of first half and to score 38 points in the game and you lose that way, that's a bigger issue from top to bottom because there's no way you should let a team. And guess what? Their identity is really to run the ball, the Ravens. So you would think they would be able to, salt away a game by running the clock down, but for some reason they couldn't stop. And then, Tyreek Hill woke up to a star connecting, and that was it. And I think that, you got to take your hat off to the Dolphins. But that game was a tale of two halves. First half was Ravens, second half was all Dolphins. And, hey, that just goes to show it's all about playing four quarters. So I would say the Ravens, with what they're trying to do and what Lamar is trying to prove, I think it's a bigger loss for them. But he still put up really good numbers. So as far as him building his stock, he did it through the air. So I don't think he hurt himself with that performance.
Yeah, when I look at I think the Ravens, even though we were going for the Dolphins, obviously, but I have no issue with the Ravens, but the Ravens loss was the biggest loss out of all the four in the AFC North. Why I say that is you couldn't ask Lamar to play any better than what he played. He didn't turn the ball over. He made the plays. He made the throws when needed to. He took off for a touchdown. He had over 100 rushing yards in that game, which is crazy, and you still lose in that fashion. But my biggest takeaway is the Baltimore Ravens defense. What is going on with the Baltimore Ravens defense? We're not used to seeing this Baltimore Ravens defense look like this. This defense has always been that gritty. Remember when they had Ray Lewis, Terrell Suggs, Ed Reed, a physical Ravens football defensive team. And to see what it is now, I know Ray Lewis is not upset because I heard Stephen A. He was going off on the Ravens defense. I was so shocked to see that, and it's not like the Ravens don't have pieces. And I said this before about a month ago that I thought the Ravens are going to be a shaky team, but obviously I feel like offensively they can run, they can pass, they can do a lot of different things on the offensive side of the ball, but the defense cannot stop anyone. And if you're looking at this whole division, the defenses aren't really that good. Bengals, Ravens, Steelers, Browns, especially the Bengals, and I would have expected the Bengals defense to look a little better, especially after last season. I don't know what's going on, but the Ravens had the worst loss to me because you go up that big and you let the Dolphins come out like that swing, and they didn't look back. The second half was all Dolphins. So Jeremiah, what about you? What was your reaction to the Dolphins winning that game and how Tua performed having 6 touchdowns? And not to mention Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, 2 touchdowns each, both over 100 yards. What is your reaction to that?
Well, just like I always say to you, any given Sunday. So that's why you never take your foot off the gas when it comes to the team. Like we were just talking about, because especially when we watched the game together, it hit halftime, and I was like, Coach Medan is going to talk to them, and he's going to tell to it not to force the passes inside there if it's not there. And you saw the second half of what happened. Tua was more comfortable, like he was back in his Alabama days, to where he had his runners and he would just sit in that pocket and he would launch it.
Yes.
Now, it was a lot of different passes and stuff that many people do underrate Tua on, which was that touchdown to Jasecki and also the other ones that's moving down the field. But a lot of people, they also look at those bombs that he threw to Tyreek, and also he had that touchdown to Waddle. But other plays, made a big factor. And also, I got to also go in on the Ravens too, because although I am a Dolphins fan, I know I'm glad that we won, but still at the same time, that was very, irresponsible for the Ravens to even let the Dolphins even come back. You're supposed to be a more improved team, especially on the defensive side, and especially having Pro Bowlers. You have some rookies, but at the same time, you still have some Pro Bowlers on there. You had a first half that you was getting interceptions and everything else, and then it was like a whole switch. And I do blame that a lot on the coaching staff too, by not having that discipline when they go out on that field as well.
They need to, for the Ravens, they have to get back. I don't know what their defensive identity is right now. When you look at the Ravens, they're historically known for their defense and run game, historically known. And to see that performance like that, and you're at home in front of your crowd in Baltimore, and you lose like that. Even Shannon Sharp, he was like, when I was on the Baltimore, we didn't have that. There was none of that. If we was up big, we were just up big. The game is over with. But I see now. Let's go to Tua now. So Tua had 6 touchdowns, phenomenal game, over 400 yards passing. This is his first time having 400 yards passing in his career so far, which is exceptionally well. Of course, you have Tyreek Hill and Waddle, probably the fastest duo right now in the NFL right now. But I see everybody still not giving this man his credit. I have never seen this one quarterback be hated this much, a young quarterback at that, being hated so much. So, Dad, what is your reaction like? I saw today, I was watching The Herd, and Colin was saying we should pump the brakes on Tua. Like, no, this is just one game. It's not, he's not that yet. He has a weak arm, and even Skip said he doesn't have a strong arm. But I'm like, so everyone else, like Justin Fields, he defended Justin Fields. But I'm like, Justin Fields had a chance, didn't capitalize, but when Tua's on the road playing against one of the better teams that is expected to be one of the playoff teams, he went in there in the second half and balled out. So why are we not giving him his props? Dad, what do you say about that?
Well, it's probably the people just looking at the history, whatever struggles Tua had in the past. But my whole thing is with the weapons they surrounded him with, that's kind of what we have to expect. I mean,
yes.
if there's anything less than that, this whole season is a bust, because when you pay Tyreek Hill a boatload of money, and you surround him with people like Waddle and all those guys, when you look at that offensive potency, 6 touchdowns, that's what was supposed to happen. And might I add, I don't know where that ranks, but there's not too many people that have done that in a game, let alone in the half, that many touchdowns. So I think that this is what the expectation should be, because they surrounded him. He's a pro. So, hey, he's a pro starting quarterback for the Miami Dolphins, and I think that's what the expectation should be, is high flying, high scoring. And if they play like that, they're going to really put their defense in a very good situation. But I think with Tua, people are, being kind of cautious because of the past. And I think that this might be a re-energized, rejuvenated Tua, because he's never had these kind of weapons around him since he's been in the NFL. And he's also going to have consistency from the coach. So not only is that the head coach, I'm pretty sure he's the one making the calls, correct?
Absolutely.
So that's going to give him the confidence, because obviously he has the green light to do what he needs to do.
Right.
So with that being that shows 6 touchdowns means that they're telling him throw that thing all over the field. And when you got Tyreek Hill catching passes short and taking it to the house,
There's nothing you can really do.
Yeah, hey, throw it all over the field. So yeah, I think Tua's going to be fine, because I was one of those people that was critical of him. But I think he's going to be okay with the weapons around him. And now he put up a 6 touchdown performance. People are going to be expecting that every week. So He's put the pressure on. So,
and the thing is, like, people were so down to it when he came in the league. This man is a national champion. I mean, he took Jalen Hurts, who people rave about. He took his job from Alabama, did he not? When Jalen Hurts was not performing well against Georgia, remember that championship a couple of years ago? They put Tua in. What did Tua do? He went in there and won the game. So, and then Jalen Hurts transfers to Oklahoma, but that's another story for another time. But when I look at it, this reminds me, this is the type of offense Tua needs. Tua's not that quarterback like Lamar with minimal talent, where Lamar can take off and just do what he wants because he's that talented. Tua has to have weapons like that down the field. He had that in Alabama. You had the running game with Najee Harris. You had the receiving core, and then, of course, you had the tight ends. And look, it's the same thing now. You have Tyreek Hill and Watt on the outside flying down the field. Then, of course, you got Cedric Wilson and other serviceable wide receivers. Then, of course, you have the tight ends, Gesicki. Gesicki's in the middle. He caught some passes in the game and even a touchdown pass that was really good for Tua. That was a great throw. But I like this offense for Tua. He has this offense where, he can have guys like that. You need playmakers around him. That's the type of quarterback he is. And he made plays yesterday. And I'm not going to take anything away from him because you went on the road against a Baltimore Ravens team who everyone's predicting to be a playoff team against Lamar Jackson, who is a league MVP, who's won playoff games, who has had the number one seed before in the AFC. And he went on the road in a big hole, having a huge deficit like that, and he delivered. So you can't take anything away from that. Now we're going to see you go to Buffalo, which is everyone's predicting Buffalo to be the Super Bowl champions already. Now we got to see him deliver there. So that's the big question. But to start off the season, Tua's looking pretty good. He's very efficient. He's putting the ball where it needs to be put, and the receivers are catching it, and the receivers are making plays. So you can't get mad at that. But that wraps up this segment. When we come back, we're going to talk about the Green Bay Packers, what we did yesterday, talk about the Bucs and different things like that. So we'll be right back for a short break. If you would like to be a guest on my show, Jasmine First Impression Sports Talk, and see past episodes of my show, you can go to my website at jasmineonsports.com. We'll be right back for more sports talk.
Renting is everything. It's style at your doorstep, off the runway and into your closet. It's every trend you've been dying to try and every designer you've yet to discover. It's wearing it your way every time and making it count everywhere you go. It's never worrying about what to wear because something new is always coming your way. That's why renting is everything. New styles, top designers, all for a flat monthly fee. Start your subscription at renttherunway.com.
Slow roasted over hickory fire and pulled by hand. This is the way pit pork has always been done. Pulled pork lovers, rejoice. The smoky old days are back at the Smoke Shack. From the creative team that brought you the Browning Project and Dead by Morning comes a new thriller that will change the way you look at white-collar crime forever. Falling from the Sky.
You're watching Jasmine Pollock's First Impressions Sports Talk. Be sure to join Jasmine every week for great conversation on the NBA, NFL, and a wide variety of sports topics. To see past episodes of First Impressions Sports Talk, go to YouTube and search First Impressions Sports Talk. You can connect with Jasmine on LinkedIn by searching Jasmine Pollock. And now, back to more First Impressions Sports Talk.
Welcome back to Jasmine's First Impressions Sports Talk. And the voices you just heard were from Kelly Johnson and Dion Hunter. If you would like voiceover work done for your projects, you can contact Leon Thomas at the leonthomasgroup.com to get voiceover work done. If you'd like to be a guest on my show and see past episodes of my show, Jasmine's First Impression Sports Talk, you can go to my website at jasmineonsports.com. So let's get into the NFC. I like how we're setting this up where I start with the AFC and then we head into the NFC. So let's bring in my dad and Jeremiah. Let's talk about the Bucks first. Now, that game was ugly and physical and gritty, how it's supposed to be against two rival teams. The question is, can Tom Brady get over the Saints? And he finally did in the regular season. But the big question, the big storyline was the brawl. That was crazy. And then now Mike Evans is going to be suspended a game, so the Packers won't see him in the game on Sunday. So, Dad, I want to start with you. You're a Bucs fan. What was your reaction to that brawl and just the overall play of the Buccaneers?
Well, I'm going to mention something about that. If people consider that a brawl, they've never really seen a brawl. There was a lot of pushing and shoving, but nobody really. That was not a brawl. That was the most subtle scuffle that you would ever see in the NFL, and people made it a big deal. There was not really much of any blows thrown. There was a couple guys, but it was not. Nobody was hauling off, punching, ripping helmets off. It was not like that.
And
it was
Dad,
a shoving match.
I'll say one thing. I do not think Mike Evans should have been suspended. I don't.
I don't necessarily have a problem with that because he was all the way out of the play and put himself back in it. That's why he's suspended.
I'm just saying.
No, but what I'm saying, if you create a situation that disrupt the game on that level, you have to be held accountable for that because you got to think, and also what's at stake. It's a divisional game, so what's at stake is you out of the game. You're one of his number one his top targets, so now you're not available. But there was more at stake than your personal quarrels, and it wasn't nothing but a shoving match. So yeah, people say he protected his quarterback, but it wasn't necessary. But the whole scuffle was overblown because it was not anything special. As far as the Bucs go, what I always talk about is how is the defense playing. I'm not worried about Tom Brady and the offense because I feel that the offense is still going to find their niche. They're still. I mean, we got a lot of guys out. Our receiving core is in shambles right now, and we found a way to pull it out. But defensively, if we can generate pressure and continue to play well on the back end, I think that we're going to be something to reckon with. But that's been my biggest thing throughout Tom Brady's time with the Bucs is how up and down our defense has been. And then when you look at the Super Bowl year when they got in the playoffs, the defense was on another level. And what I'm seeing now, the way our defense is flying around, yesterday, that wasn't a fluke. We played a defensive game. And yes, people say, oh, it's Jameis Winston. But Jameis Winston played before he got hurt last year, and he actually looked pretty good against us. And he still made some really good plays in this game. So I think I still gotta see some more because hey, you go to it like Aaron Rodgers is going to be a more efficient quarterback next week. He's not going to put the ball in harm's way as much as Jameis did. So we got to see how it's going to play out. But I really do. I like the way our pass rush is getting home. I like the way we're disrupting. And that's what I'm going to focus on this year because we've seen Brady do what I have complete confidence on what he can do to figure out defenses. And the Saints is one of the better defenses he's going to face all season. That was a full Saints defense, pretty much. So he's not going to face as many defenses that's that good. So I think that was a good takeaway from that. But I think that our defense got tired of people talking about their defense, and it was a defensive battle in that game. Yeah.
They got physical. They did what needed to be done. I just feel like when I look at the Saints, and I know Kamara didn't play, so there's that's always that. And
that's a huge. He makes their offense run, so I will say that's a huge factor for the Saints because he's a matchup nightmare. So I will say that Kamara being out was definitely a huge factor in that game.
My thing is about the Saints. What I'm so disappointed with is when you look at the Saints team from top to bottom for the receiving core, running game, defense. This is a Super Bowl team. It's literally a Super Bowl team. But the quarterback play is the same conversation. The quarterback play is lackluster. And I'm not calling Jameis a lackluster quarterback, but right now, like it went from Taysom Hill back to him. It's all this back and forth going on. And it's like the Saints have one of the best receiving cores in the league. They do. You have Michael Thomas. You have Jarvis Landry. You have Chris Olave. Are you serious? And then you have Alvin
But Jazz,
Kamara as a
one
running
thing
back.
I'll add, Jazz, one thing I'll add to that is that's one of the things they were talking about is the lack of speed. They have guys that are possession guys that are really good catchers of the ball, but our team's going to respect them down the field. And as you can see, we didn't respect them down the field because Dean picked a deep one off, which means he was there step for step with their best receiver. So that's going to be a challenge for them this year without having the guys that are having that speedster out there.
I think the only person is, and I didn't watch, and I'll be honest, I didn't watch the game. But I went back and watched the highlights and stuff. Chris Olave is their fastest receiver. He is. I mean, he was getting behind people, and I get it's college, but that young receiver, he was the best receiver in this past draft. I mean, he was catching everything for Ohio State. He is fast. I don't know how they're utilizing him at all. I know he did jet sweeps. I don't know what's going on, but maybe it's because Sean Payton's not there anymore calling the offense, and I get it's different. But at the same time, you have receivers that can go that you have a good receiving core. I get all of that, but seriously, and then the defense, I don't understand. But the Bucs got tired, and I agree with you that the Bucs got tired of people saying that, oh man, I don't know about the Bucs defense. The Bucs defense doesn't look the same. And they showed people that we're still that same defense. They're still those same guys. Regardless of, we can forget, what the Saints stand for, but that defense, that Bucs defense was the heartbeat of that team. That was when that came to that championship. They was flying, they were getting turnovers, and then Jameis is going to turn the ball over. I mean, that's expected. I mean, he averages two picks a game. But Jeremiah, to you, when we look at the Saints team, now I picked them as my dark horse in the NFC, one of my dark horse teams. It's early, it's week 2, I get it. But what do you have to say for the Saints team? How do they look? What are we expecting from them? Can they go far with Jameis Winston?
I think when it comes to the Saints, Jameis, he's gonna give you. It's gonna be too much of up and down, and I feel like some games he will have these spectacular performances, but then the next game he'll be on an interception run right off the bat, and sometimes that's just the thing that you're just stuck with, because you're gonna get the touchdowns, but you're gonna go through some interceptions to get those touchdowns at the end of the day, just like how the Bucs did when he was with the Bucs. So I think that when it comes to also, I mean, the Saints, I wouldn't say they should put all their fruits in the basket on Jameis, and not to mention he's coming back from an injury right now. Let's just say if anything happens to where he gets injured, God forbid, or anything, who is their next person to really be like, take this over, just in case if Jameis is not on one game? You need to have that reliant other person to come in and just be like, I got us. And
Taysom Hill, he's the backup, but I don't think he has a strong arm like Jameis.
Yeah, because I see him more as, they use him for a lot of running plays. They're using him as more of a decoy more than anything else. And I feel like with this much talent on this team, they need to find somebody soon or quick to pick up, just in case if Jameis doesn't have it in him during those crucial times when you need to actually win certain games, because these games right here are very important. As you go down the line, you can't afford to lose these certain games and try to squeeze your way into the playoffs. You have to, get there, especially with the amount of talent you have on this team.
And not to mention, when it comes to Jameis Winston, there's a lot of quarterbacks that need to be watching their job, because if Baltimore does not pay Lamar, there's a lot of teams out there that are going to be that will pay him. I'm telling you that. And if Tua continues to play how he played, then he's safe. But if Jameis, this is the same conversation with Jameis, like, okay. And I believe he's the only quarterback in history to throw 30 touchdowns and 30 interceptions in one season. I mean,
it was 33 touchdowns and 30 interceptions. He was the first to ever do that.
That's what I'm saying. You're going to go through some interceptions before touchdowns. You're going to go through.
He takes chances. That's what that means. I mean, Jameis is not afraid to throw the ball. Like, I'll say that about him. But it's just, now I don't know. I think this is what Jameis is. I think he, 1 minute he's going to throw the touchdowns. The next minute, the interceptions are going to start falling.
Well, Hey, Jazz, one real quick point on that before we move on to the next. So one thing I'll say about Jameis, if you look at the history of his career, if you take out some of the antics where he was getting a little trouble, not anything illegal, but just some of the distractions that he brought early on in his career, Jameis Winston had some of his better years with Tampa Bay when he had a consistent offensive coordinator. And
Yeah.
when the offensive coordinator switched to be the offensive head, well, being the head coach, he actually did better with less interceptions. When he got under Bruce
Mhm.
Arians and they started throwing the ball 50 times a game, you
Right.
just, I mean, that's not his
He's
game.
susceptible.
And he was just slinging the ball. And I think that what's happening with the Saints, without Sean Payton there, I think that he's struggling because when Sean Payton was there, he was playing pretty clean.
Because Sean
What
Payton's
we
one of those
saw,
coaches. Right.
yeah. So I think right now it might be I don't think it's good for him right now because yes, he has to adapt. I get it, but how many quarterbacks, and you look in history, even your greats have dealt with different coordinators multiple
Right.
times throughout their career. If I'm not
Yeah.
mistaken, those quarterbacks are usually with those coordinators for quite a while, unless they switch teams or they go to be a head coach. So those are the types of things that I think in Jameson's defense is a lot of different
Yes, I
offensive
agree.
coordinators.
But it's sad because these young quarterbacks, you can't expect these young quarterbacks. Okay, when they first get into the league, they and I understand, like, of course, if you're a good quarterback in college, you're going to go to a trash team. You're going to go to a bad team that's not good. They're going to get the first pick in the draft, the first 5 picks in the draft. You're going to go there and maybe not have the best coaching, may not have the best organization, and it's unfortunate for young quarterbacks. And now we're seeing which quarterbacks. So in those particular drafts, like Jameis's draft, when you look at Baker Mayfield's draft, we're starting to see those quarterbacks. Okay, they had rocky starts, and we're seeing which quarterback is really, really good. You know what I mean? So it's unfortunate, and of course, I didn't like what happened with Jameis in Tampa. There was so much going on in Tampa, so much
Yep.
in and out moving parts, and different coaches and offensive coordinators. So you can't really expect him to get on the proper footing. And now I think it's just molding him to what he is now. Before we get to the Packers, let's talk about the Rams. I have to ink this in real quick. So the Rams, Super Bowl champions, they're trying to repeat or whatever you want to call it. They almost let the Falcons come back. Dad, what do you got to say about that? What's that? What's that mean?
Well, there could be some truth to the Super Bowl hangover because if you look
That's
at your
true.
two Super Bowl contenders from last year, they're not looking really good right now. They're not looking clean, crisp. They're not looking organized. They're not looking efficient right now. And I think that the Rams could right the ship. Because hey, you got the win. I mean, however, and Jeremiah said it earlier, any given Sunday, it's all about matchups. They got the win, so no matter how it looks, they still got the W. And I think that the Rams have a lot of teams are keying in differently now. It's not going to be the same fairy tale like last year. I can tell you that right now because teams see what they do and see what they want to do. And now you got to think you don't have Odell Beckham there anymore. He's not helping you out there. You still have Cooper Kupp, but I don't see Cooper Kupp's production being as high this year as it was last year because teams are really going to key into him. He's still going to do his thing. He's an excellent receiver. Defensively, I do see some issues defensively because teams are able to run on the Rams. Now the pass rush is
Exactly.
what it is, but I'm trying to see where they're going to be because these teams are coming back, and they're playing the Rams really good. And they're going to get the best shot. They're defending champs, so they got to be they got to be on their toes anyway because every team's going to give them their best shot. So the Rams, I won't, I'll hold off on, being too critical of them right now as far as because there's Super Bowl hangover and they did get the win. They're 1-1. So right now, it's a long season. So we'll see what it looks like. But they lost to the teams they lost to a team that we expect to be there around the end. So was that a bad loss? Yeah, it was, but it was who they lost to. Hey,
But I just feel like, can we attest to the fact that the Rams are overrated?
yeah,
Do you
not
guys
gonna say that
agree?
yet. Not gonna say that yet.
But
Not
Dad,
gonna say that.
wait a minute. I have to say it because, Dad, the thing is, we talked about it last year. Everything, and Dad, you mentioned and you said it over and over. the Rams had it was a silver platter for them last year.
So,
I
well,
mean,
what had to happen happened, just like when teams have
exactly
fairy tale championship runs like the Giants. What had to happen for the Rams happened for the Rams. They got the
and
right
that
calls, the
they
right
were
plays fell
fortunate,
in their direction. So, hey, it worked
right?
out.
They were fortunate, Dad. And think about this. And I want you to look at this now. They were fortunate in the playoffs to face teams that had depleted O lines.
Yeah.
Even in the
And
Super
depleted
Bowl,
receiving cores. Depleted
yes.
receiving cores as well.
And even when they went to play the Bucks in the divisional round, with the depleted O line, with the depleted receiving core, the Bucks still managed to almost win that game.
Absolutely.
Still managed. Then we go to the 49ers. The 49ers O line was depleted also. Then you go to the Super Bowl. Bengals O line was depleted. Now teams are getting healthier, hopefully. They're getting healthier. Teams are getting better.
Mm-hmm.
And here's the thing. Matthew Stafford's not the best quarterback in this conference, in the NFC conference at all. He's not.
No.
He got placed in a good position. Aaron Donald, I haven't heard his name this year. Have you guys heard his name this year?
I don't think he got a sack in the first game. I think he got one sack
The
in
first game. The first quarter. But I haven't heard his name. That doesn't mean that, I think he's being double teamed. Of course, Von Miller not being there is a huge reason why that's happening. But if people talk about him as the best defensive player ever, ever, defensive player of the year, that's what they're talking about. And I'm not hearing anything about it. I haven't heard his name all year so far. So Jeremiah, we'll talk about the Rams another time. They got the win, so good for them. But let's go to the Packers. So the Packers, I wanted to see how the offense would look after a horrendous start last week against the Vikings. We bounced back. We beat the Bears 27-10. I still have some concerns defensively with our run game. I think our passing defense did very well. Pass rush did very well. But the run game, I'm not sold yet about what we're doing. We were not tackling like we were supposed to. Offensively, we have now, I feel like, have we become a running football team now, Jeremiah? Because Aaron Jones had over 100 yards rushing, a touchdown on 15 carries. Are we a running team now, being that Devontae's not here anymore?
Well, to me, I don't think that that's all the way there yet. Because to me, even like what your dad said before, Aaron said in the press conference, I played terrible. He could play way better. And I know that Aaron's not really going to have two bad games in a row when it comes to like his performances with his throwing. So I know next week he's going to try and air that thing out and get more people involved. Now, when it comes to Aaron Jones and also Dylan, you already know that tag team, of course, they're one of the best running backs in the league right now. And
Duos,
of course,
right.
going against the Bears is always bringing a statement. They doing it on the ground, and they found something that worked early, so they kept going to it. And that's why Aaron was like, this is working. My throwing is not doing great right now. And he understand that. That's how come every option went to the running backs. He understood the position that they were in. And plus, just the Chicago, they tried to come out strong, but the Packers, they're always going to just have a one-up on them all the time. And plus, the Chicago, they're, a very young team, and they have promise in the future, but they're just not on the level of the Packers right now. And the Packers, this was just a statement game to just be like, we don't have Devontae, but, we're still here. We're going to still make the playoffs, and they look great yesterday. Not throwing-wise, but also running-wise and also picking up on the defense.
One of my big takeaways was the balance that we had, like running the ball and passing. Our tight end, Tonyan, he had a great game. One of the biggest standouts that I saw was Sammy Watkins. Now, my question was, we know what Sammy Watkins stood for. We saw him at Clemson. He was one of the speedsters out of Clemson when he got drafted. Top 5 pick in the draft that year. Then he goes on to the Chiefs. He has wins the Super Bowl with them and different things like that. And I just wanted to see how he looked. 3 receptions, 93 yards. That's pretty good for a guy who's been in the league this long.
Yeah,
had
3 for 90.
injuries.
That's a heck of a average.
Yeah, so I mean, and there's certain things I saw, like his route running, he still got the speed. I was like, okay, I mean, hey, we haven't seen that in a long time. Of course, Lazard, I feel like with this offense now, we're gonna run the ball a lot. But I really look at Sammy Watkins and what he did yesterday and how he looked and how his route running was and how he had guys holding him. Literally, he had those guys holding him, and they had some defensive pass interference calls because they were holding him. Lazard, he's 6'5". He's going to catch everything. And our the rookies stepped up just a little bit. You could see that they're going in the right direction, but it's just them making sure they're on the same page, just making sure that they are understanding the plays and just making sure that they running the right routes. Now, I noticed for Christian Watson, which is our second round pick, I keep mentioning him. He's the one that dropped that 75-yarder. What I like that they're using him is they're using him in a lot of jet sweeps because that's what he did at college at San Diego State. So I was really excited to see him doing the jet sweep motions and different things like that because he's very fast, but it's just him catching the ball. And then Romeo Doubs, he had some very solid catches. So I'm really excited what I saw. But the biggest thing, our run defense has to get better. We have to tackle. I don't know what we were doing. We were just the running back Montgomery for the Chicago Bears, he was getting in between everyone. And I'm like, so nobody's going to tackle him. They're just going to sit there and watch him. Pass rush, I'm not worried about the pass rush at all because I think our pass rush is very good. But the run stop defense has always been one of our weakest links on this team. But, Dad, what was your reaction to the Packers game? And what do you look forward to between the Bucs and the Packers game next week?
So what I'll say is I think that the Packers selling out to run the ball is the best case scenario. Because if you look into history, Aaron throwing the ball all over the place, doing what he can do, I think that having a complementary game will suit them better, especially as you start to get closer to the playoffs. Then we get to inclement weather to establish that run game and then start to operate with that play action pass. And I think that just adds more tools in the toolbox for Aaron Rodgers because I still think he's one of the best all the time. Defensively, you are right. They do have to tighten up on the defense because, of course, every team's going to try to exploit every other team's weakness. So next week they're going to see a heavy dose of Leonard Fournette. We just know that because that's what we did against the Saints, and I think the Saints have one of the stouter defenses up front. As far as the overall game, I think it's going to be a good game, a decent game. I do think that this is going to be one of those games that Brady's going to try to bounce back. Even though he threw a touchdown in this game and really low averages in that game, I think you're going to see them kind of put some new wrinkles in because it's a lot of young guys in there now or guys who weren't the starters. And without Mike Evans being there, he's really going to have to spread the ball around.
Now,
it's going to be a lot more.
Is Godwin going to play?
I don't know, and I don't think they should. Them being at 2-0, I don't think they should play this week. I think that this is something that's early in the year. You got out of there with you got 2 wins. Let's go ahead and see what these guys can do. It'll have to be a game time decision for those guys. But I think that they should try to work with what they have now, and then rely on that defense. Let's let the defense have the time. We got Tom Brady, and like when Peyton was with the Broncos in his last year, that defense pretty much carried that season, and he's known for throwing the ball all over the place. So we know what Brady can do, but let's be complimentary now. Let that defense play, and then kind of feed off of the defense and what they can do for you. Because you limit possessions and you give Tom Brady more possessions, it's going to be a tough out for anybody. But on the other side of it with Aaron Rodgers is still one of the more accurate quarterbacks. So I don't expect the turnover game like we saw with Jameis. There's no way I foresee a turnover system like that. It's not going to be a turnover. I just truly believe that Aaron's going to protect the ball, which is going to make it more of an interesting game. So I'm looking forward to a good game.
This is the battle of the old man, literally.
Yeah.
This is the battle of the old man between Brady and Rodgers. I mean, these are the two. You could say right now with you have all the young quarterbacks, and then you could say Matthew Stafford. You could put him in, but no. But when you look at it, it's just we have to appreciate what we're going to see on Sunday, just between Aaron and Brady and them being in the league as long as they've been in the league and still playing at high levels. And I think both quarterbacks these past 2 games haven't had their best games, both of them. Of just the numbers, the touchdown passes. Not saying that can't not happen. I mean, I'm sure that's going to happen, but I just want to see how we as a defense stop the run. We have to get better with tackling. I feel like and I've thought about this like over the past week. Why do we continue playing zone defense when we look much better playing man? But Joe Barry does not like playing man to man. I don't understand why, and we get scorched every time. So we'll definitely see what they're gonna do.
And
I expect
Jasmine,
a good
although
game.
also
Yeah,
Jasmine,
go ahead,
also
continue.
the old line. There's also
Yeah,
the old line as well.
the
Both
O
sides,
lines,
old
yes.
line. I hope they stand so we can have a good game. I don't want to see a bunch of sacks from both sides. I want to see, especially Josh, because we don't want to see both of those men
Those
like running
quarterbacks,
out of the
right?
pocket. It don't look good when they're running like that.
Now, Aaron, he ran a little bit, yesterday. He
Aaron
had
can
10
run.
yards rushing.
Aaron actually can run.
He can run.
Deceptively, he
Aaron
can run.
he
Tom
was
Brady,
he was
different story, but he can
yards.
get you a few yards.
But I want to see a good game. There's going to be a lot of good games so far. There's already some games on right now I already knew Buffalo was going to beat Tennessee. I don't see Tennessee at all going anywhere. But the Eagles, they are my dark horse team, and they look good.
Yes.
They look very
Yes.
good. So we'll definitely see. But that wraps up tonight's show. Thank you, Dad. Thank you, Jeremiah, for always being guests on the show. We'll actually have Cole next week, so he could talk about his Steelers and different things like that, because I know he has a lot to say, but he couldn't be here tonight. Thank you, production team. Thank you, Ramisha. Thank you, Jay. Thank you, Leon. Thank you, everyone, for just tuning in and giving me your support. You guys will see me next week for more sports talk. If you would like to see past episodes of my show and be a guest on my show, you can go to my website at jasmineonsports.com. So see you next week for week 3 of NFL. Have a good night.